Are we good? Okay, go ahead. There we go.
All right, good evening. I now call to order the Downtown Community Task Force meeting of January 18th, 2024. Leslie, please call roll.
Member Thompson.
Here.
Member Ondrasek.
Here.
Member Mayer.
Here.
Member Von Hune. Member Vargas Smith. Member Reed is not here. Member Coyne.
Here.
Member Tai and Member Varjane both sent emails today indicating they would not be attending.
Okay, thank you. I'm also not heard anything from Matthew, but do we want to make a motion to excuse?
Second.
Okay, all three? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, 3 members are excused. Leslie, please read the DCTF meeting procedures into the record.
Thank you. Meetings are conducted by the chair in accordance with the following procedures. The chair of the DCTF directs all activity during the meeting. Any item on this agenda may be continued to a subsequent meeting. Special procedures or time limits may be applied to any items as prescribed by the chair. Copies of the current agenda and staff reports for each item on the agenda are available online on the Downtown Precise Plan website as well on the city clerk's website.
Thank you, Leslie. We'll move to the consent calendar.
The procedure for the consent calendar is as follows. Consent calendar items may be enacted or approved by one motion unless requested to be removed by anyone for discussion or explanation.
Leslie, this is Steve online.
Yeah.
We cannot hear you online. I think the council chamber's PC is mute.
Muted.
Okay, can somebody talk on to the mic?
Hello, hello.
Is that better?
Okay, we can all hear you now.
Okay, so we got to start over?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
All right.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you,
Sorry.
Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, so we'll start over. I now call to order the Downtown Community Task Force meeting for January 18th, 2024 with audio. Leslie, please call roll.
Member Thompson.
Here.
Member Ondrasek.
Here.
Member Mayer.
Here.
Member Von Hune.
Here.
Member Vargas Smith. Member Reed. He is not present. Member Coyne.
Here.
Oh, did I hear here?
Yeah, he's online.
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh,
I'll be there in
okay.
1 minute.
Okay. Member Reed is here.
Okay. He's online. He said he's right out in the parking lot.
Okay. Member Coyne. Did I get your here?
Here.
Member Tai and Member Varjane both emailed today indicating that they would be absent.
Is there a motion to excuse member time, member Bajni?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, they are excused. Leslie, please read the DCTF meeting procedures into record.
Thank you. Meetings are conducted by the chair in accordance with the following procedures. The chair of the DCTF directs all activity during the meeting. Any item on this agenda may be continued to a subsequent meeting. Special procedures, time limits may be applied to any items as prescribed by the chair. Copies of the current agenda and staff reports for each of the items on the agenda are available online on the Downtown Precise Plan website, as well as on the city clerk's website.
Thank you, Leslie. We'll move on to the consent calendar.
The procedure for the consent calendar is as follows. Consent calendar items may be enacted or approved by one motion unless requested to be removed by anyone for discussion or explanation. We have 2 items on our consent calendar this evening. Item number 1, Downtown Community Task Force meeting minutes of the October 19th, 2023 meeting. And item number 2, Downtown Community Task Force meeting minutes of the September 14th, 2023 meeting.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar or pull items?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that carries. We'll move on to general business. Leslie?
So item number 3 on general business for you this evening is review of the final report for the Santa Clara Civic Center relocation study. This has been posted on the Precise Plan website. and was sent out to the task force members last week. The consultant is not present this evening, but I am here to take any questions that you may have and aggregate those and give them back to them should there be questions on the report. But this is time for you to discuss
All right, thank you, Leslie.
final report. So just a little primer, all of the items you saw in this report were things that we discussed over the last, I don't know how many months. All put in one nice document for you. So with that, Chair, I'll let you take it away.
All right, I will open it up to my fellow DCTF members for questions.
Turn your, yeah.
So Leslie, the stay or relocate, were there any recommendations on that as far as stay or relocate?
So the recommendations were the last couple of pages of the report. And yeah, they basically said it warranted further study to be more specific because there were things that were not included, in particular to stay. It didn't include any remodeling of current City Hall. It only included bringing up HVAC systems, ADA, any structural things. So it didn't include improving any spaces or anything like that. So that would need further analysis, for the city to make a decision like that if they wanted to put money into whatever larger project to remodel this site.
Right. One of the things that I read was they stated, and I don't have the page marked, but that if they stayed on this property, that it would be more cost-effective to tear down and build back up. Is that confirmed?
Do you know what page? I don't recall that.
And again, I had meetings right up until. Apologies, guys.
Well, it's on page 116. There's a table, and it says rebuild on existing site. No acquisition. There's pros, cons, and costs to it. That's on page 116.
Yeah, no, I got it.
$260 million capital cost estimate. That's a big,
Maybe I can share my screen, put that up for everyone.
the benefit is that it's city-owned land, right? You don't have to, it's not encumbered in the way that the Prometheus or any non-city-owned site is.
I mean, I know Dan's looking for it, but,
Yeah, go ahead.
reading this, I mean, it really looks like there's a lot of information in here, but it really comes down to the strategic planning of the city and where they want to go and allocate resources for short and long term. I think it gives them a great start in being able to review those decisions, because I do know that, there has been a lot of discussion about the existing city hall having issues with deferred maintenance and existing mechanical and HVAC systems. So ultimately, it's really up to city management and council during their priorities goal setting. So hopefully they do take this into consideration, but obviously it's going to spider web out based on their decision tree.
Okay, so I got it. So on page 114, empirical evidence suggests that major renovations on buildings the age of Santa Clara's current facilities can be as or more expensive than new build construction. The reasons are stated. So the inference is, scenario one is keep it the way it is with the deferred costs, which does not sound like a recommendation, because the place is going to fall in. Scenario 2 is don't renovate, tear down and build back up. And I was hoping they were here tonight. I didn't know they weren't going to be here.
Yeah, we did not.
Okay.
They do have attendance at a council meeting as the last meeting in their scope for this work.
Okay.
Deferred maintenance, dealing with that and upgrading the systems, but it's not remodeling, I don't believe, is what scenario 2 says. That's what scenario 2 says.
Is there a cost in scenario 2?
Well, I think, isn't that,
Yeah.
that's on the next page, 116.
Operations, life cycle, deferred maintenance, and renovation costs, temporarily relocating lease cost estimated to be 4 to 8 million, an additional 38,000 square feet required to house city staff at an average annual lease cost of 2.7 million.
I think, this is a lot like buying a house. If you can afford to buy the house, or build the house, I should say, if you can afford to build the house in the long run, you're going to get something that's going to have, it's modern and new, and it's going to last. If you can't afford to, and you have to, stick with one, if you can't even afford to build something or buy something, then you're renting, and that could be in perpetuity, so.
I mean, there's other factors too that I didn't see them, but like this city hall is spread out. It underutilizes the parcel that's here. And then I think to your point, right? I mean, you rehabilitate the structure, you're only going to get so far in making it more efficient, greener, getting out asbestos, other contaminants and all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, if you can afford to rebuild, you're going to get a far better product that's going to cost you a lot less on ongoing maintenance and, operations, but you have to be able to, swallow the initial capital expense. So
Big deal,
there's a lot. I mean, I wasn't able to get through the entire thing, but I did read through this and actually discussed it with Dan a little bit. There's a lot of information in here, and I really just hope that the city and the leadership is looking at this for long-term planning of the city. Since all of these facilities, I mean, I just saw that International Swim Center closed indefinitely last, Tuesday?
Because of lack of maintenance.
Because of lack of maintenance. So, and there's no fund in the kitty for, to rebuild it. So unfortunately, I think there's a lot of other city structures and needs that are going to be in the same predicament here pretty quick. So hopefully this gives them a head start consideration. So that's all I got.
I got to go in here. Yeah. So I've got a couple other. These are just, again, things I wanted to float by this group. And then, so if and when a new city hall has to be built, which I think we can all agree it's going to be one day, we're going to have to rebuild it, is financing. So, the debt service on, building a building here with the 38,000 square feet, how are they going to finance that? Versus the debt service if it goes downtown. If it's here, it's more than a half a mile outside of the TIFIA guidelines, which means at this point in time, and, interest rates go up and down, but, what are we at right now? 8%, 9%? Yep. And what's the length of a typical loan? Duration? 25 for commercial. Yeah. Okay. So if with TIFIA, it's 4%. It's Treasury right now. And in talking with DOT and FRA, what's stated on paper is as low as, the minimal is 35 years payback. they've given loans out as long as 75 years. So I think that the other key point to the city is the debt service of, okay, let's say this thing costs, I'm going to, say 100 million, 80 million, whatever. And the downtown building is twice as much. What is that debt service if the loan rates are that favorable and it's spread out over that period of time? And I think the city has to, that's something that has to be looked at and calculated. Does that make sense? I mean, I was literally doing it in the car in the back of my hand, but it's, it's a parallel. Like if you had a building that is twice as expensive downtown as something that we know has got to be rebuilt here, and it's built downtown, the debt service to the city, which I know we don't have money, the city doesn't have money, but what are you going to do? You're going to let the roof fall in? It's something that's we got to face, right? So if there is a definite option A here and an option B there, you've got that, that to contend with, and I think they mentioned that in there as far as low risk with TIFIA, because it's, well, even if it's built, half the downtown is a half a mile from the train station, but because, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me online?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you online.
Okay. So because we have a precise plan in the form-based code, the fact that half of the downtown is within the half mile, because we have that plan according to DOT, all 10 blocks are available for both TIFIA and RIF. So that's something. What I'd like to understand is a scenario where, we have a cost of a building here and a cost of a building downtown, apples to apples. What's the debt service difference? Does that make sense? Because I think that's paramount in the decision making. What are the relocation costs? I might have missed those.
Temporary, it says temporary relocation leasing cost estimated to be 48 million a year.
A year.
And
Okay.
you're probably, for a project this size, probably 3-year turnaround.
So the other key point too is if another site was located, i.e. downtown, city employees could remain in this location. So you defer that 48 million, is that correct?
48 a year.
48 a year.
428.
428.
428. Big difference.
Yeah.
Put that dash in there, buddy. I'm like, wait, 48? Wait, how's the math work for 3 times 4? No. I'm like, wait.
Gotcha. That was, I mean, those were kind of the basis of my questions to them. I mean, I had several more, but. And the lease cost of 38,000 square feet?
And what? The lease is what they're already you're currently leasing, right? 38 is required at an average annual lease cost of 2.7 million. That's their current,
Additional, yeah.
that's what they're
for-
currently paying.
For the energy, for SVP.
The one thing that didn't really come up is buying existing office building or newly constructed office building that could be reasonably converted, because there's probably going to be a fireside sale here or at least some opportunities. Let's not be over dramatic, I guess, but I do think that there might be some serious opportunities where there's recently constructed vacated buildings that have the potential to add on the additional civic facilities that are needed at a more reasonable cost. And you can even ease out of the 2.7 leasing, moving those people over immediately while you figure out the plan for the constructability of those civic centers. So that was one thing I was thinking about. I don't know if it's so much that they need to obviously study it, but it could just be left as one of maybe a consideration, to be added to the plan so that somebody read through it. At least it's kind of sparks their thought. All right, anybody else? Dan?
That's it.
I have a quick comment just for the notes. I think along those same lines, part of this is what are the opportunity costs for the downtown? City Hall's not going to be paying taxes. Downtown wants activation, morning, noon, night. The same dynamics that might lead to an existing building being available at what looks like an attractive rate are going to make it that much harder to fill that space in the downtown. So I think it's worth thinking about how the public investment can be part of leveraging a public value as well. And that's both a financial question, but it's also, what do we expect we're going to do to really operationalize this vision that we have for the downtown in the near medium term, and what is the role of the city making decisions and commitment in that process, which is only partly, I think, a financial decision.
And I think just at the rate and the magnitude of the multiple decisions that our city is probably in the predicament of having to make, that they probably wouldn't even be able to make a decision in the reasonable amount of time that we all want to see the downtown get going. So, and the land, unfortunately, that is first up for grabs is going to be, the city-owned land. So if they don't have it as visioned as something that they've slated for, it's probably not the best use, or we all have to be ready to wait again. So you bring up a good point.
So is the intent to present a summary of this information and the alternatives to the city council in a priority setting meeting?
That's correct. It'll be an item on their agenda. The consultant has it scoped to do the presentation, basically summarizing this report, and it will be sort of a note and file for them.
So there won't be any decision at that
correct.
time?
Correct.
Okay.
That will be left up to them what they do with this information.
But at least they'll know it exists, and they'll have a high level, and hopefully if they're interested, they'll read it and reach out, so. All right.
I got one last point. So the other, what attracted, because I was not for this idea, members of my group were. And what we did was we started talking to other cities, as you guys know. I've said that 90 times. We've called multiple cities. When a city hall moved downtown, it stimulated development. It stimulated, other businesses to say, hey, this city believes in this downtown, and it spawned that kind of development. Is there, you can't put a hard number on that, but they studied several cities. Did they put any kind of residual, benefit if City Hall were to move downtown?
That I don't know. I'd have to ask them.
Dan? Yes. The thing that I struggle with is the fact that, a lot of these towns they studied it's pre-COVID, right? I know that I come in less and less to do business with the city as an architect. I can submit everything online. I really don't need to go in. And so I just, from a civic pride and what makes sense to most towns is to have City Hall downtown. Like, I get that. But what I struggle with is we're going to be becoming more and more, everything's automated now. I mean, you used to go pay certain things you know, your bills and stuff. Everything is automated now. So there will be employees down there, and I don't discount that because that's similar to another office building, okay? But I just, the other things that I was reading in there was, you know, Mountain View, and they say it's a highly utilized plaza near their theater. I would argue not. That, to me, is a failure. Their park is behind the city hall. It's weird. It's just weird. So I don't think that was a huge success there. And so they made some comments in there about how it's, you know, being utilized, but, and they're very linear. That town is very linear. So I don't know. I think it's going to come down to, it's having city council, city manager getting really creative and putting us in the best position we can to say, is this the right, you know, what's the right thing to do long-term for our city? And we're in challenging economic times right now, so.
Yeah, the other, I mean, last point on that is that, and I was trying to, you know, again, calculate this with the 20 minutes I had beforehand. But downtown, office vacancy right now with employees is 40%. Everybody's saying, well, that's going to change. I don't think it's going to. So our office, and I probably shouldn't say this, it's not 40%. It's probably 60% empty, to the point where consolidation of, you know, we have 2 locations, one's gone. So in the beginning, again, pre-COVID, we were all dreaming about, we're going to have workers, we're going to have WeWorks, I think you mentioned, right? Yep. So, and it made sense. You're going to have offices where, you know, you work. That's going to bring in a lunchtime crowd. That's not going to happen. What's the occupancy rate right now of City Hall?
So we're in 3 days a week, work from home 2 days a week, but that's obviously not everyone. We have public works folks out in the field every day. We have building inspectors out in the field every day, code enforcement inspectors. So, you know, for office workers, you know, we're pretty full.
You know,
Fridays are kind of quiet.
I just see, and I could be wrong, but I just see, you know, a municipal entity being more full than a, you know, a startup. So, unless we're just going to blow off office. You know,
Well,
for the town.
We don't,
I think ultimately the market's going to
Yeah.
drive the conditions, right? As it builds. I mean, luckily, again, I think because we're going to have some real stopgaps on when there's you know, people willing and interested in developing, we're going to hopefully be able to catch some of that and phase it over time and not get ourselves into too big of a predicament, since we're not going to do all 10 blocks all at the same time.
we're also.
We don't have to make the decision now. That's the
No,
best
I mean,
part.
nobody's going to.
But
But
Dan,
in the plan, it allows either.
we're also in a, you know, pendulum swings hard one way and it swings the other. I mean, I feel like, I mean, having these in-person meetings is way better than being on Zoom. I mean, I'm so sick of Zoom. So I'm hoping that in the future, we're going to get back to more normalcy. I know everybody likes their freedom. I worked from home for 23 years. I mean, you know, but I mean, maybe that's why I like this in-person meeting.
not for you,
Yeah.
all right?
I know
Thanks,
the
Rob.
UPS person
I
is
want
better
all
than
of you
anybody.
going back to work.
Yeah. You
But-
guys are cramping my neighborhood.
But I do, you know, you can't predict, and you don't make knee-jerk reactions. Time's going to tell. I think it's hard for companies to force the employees to come back. That's not an easy thing.
You
Once you
can't.
give something, it's hard to take it away. But I think it's just wait and see, you know. I'm not going to say it's not going to ever happen again.
Let it be organic.
Yeah, because again, what I'm doing is I'm picking, hey, look at right now, and then look at 5 years from now. And the main point I wanted to make was, you know, I think this conversation's a good conversation for the city to have, because you have a building that, what do you got, 10 years? You know, and The Wood's not going to look at the budget. It's just going to fall in.
How long do they get to present to council? Like, is this like their presentation 2 minutes like we get, or is it like
No.
actually 10 minutes like?
It should be 20 minutes.
Okay, so they'll get a reasonable, like, rundown of
Yeah.
the thought that went into this, because there's a lot to digest, and I hope it's not like, hey, we got 5 scenarios you're never gonna read, and they're
Right.
in a folder somewhere. It's
Yeah.
like, because there's really good information that I see that they really need, because there's tough decisions ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors and
So-
strings you can pull, or buttons you can push.
But I mean, the one takeaway that we have aside from pre-COVID, it generating a lot of stimulus in these towns that we looked at across America is the debt service, and TIFIA specifically. And that's something that we were on with DOT last week, and we got to get off our tails as a city. If we're going to apply, City Hall or not, if we're going to apply for TIFIA or RIF, there is a batch of cities that are already in line for those. So this city has to, we're going to come forward to council, our group, with a request for a planning grant from feds, which they're willing to do, to examine TIFIA and RIF in the downtown and the half mile around the train station along with grants. Because again, this is not going to last forever, this money, so.
That's the first step, is you ask for a planning study.
You
with
did,
the
that's it.
TIFIA, and then, but grants would, if they determine that it's eligible, then
Yep.
you have to present a project, or what? How
No.
does it specifically work?
What they do is they, because it is complicated. I mean, if you go before, the council and say, well, you got this TIFIA loan, you got a RIF, this is the difference. You've got a RAISE grant or a Reconnected Communities grant, which would connect east and west on the station area plan. Very high-level people think that Santa Clara is a prime candidate for all of this. But what makes it simple for City Hall, for City Council, is that you don't begin with all that. You don't try to figure all that out. You just apply for a planning grant. They give it to you if they think which we've already vetted them. So, they're waiting for us to pick the phone up. They grant the planning grant. They select what they feel the best route to go, be it transit, be it, loans, what have you. They make their recommendations, and then the city either does it or doesn't do it. But in the way of grants, it's, hundreds of millions of bucks that, if we want to connect the downtown, Santa Clara University, Coleman, the airport, which is what they're eyeballing, they're baffled that Dearden's connected to the airport. So they're not destroying that idea, but they're saying we need some kind of loop that will connect safely, the Coleman workers that are leaving at night with a 10-minute last mile solution to the trains. So they're all in. So we have to get off our duff and do it.
So Dan, is this a resource-heavy project to get
In-
these grants?
In what
I mean,
way?
we hear oftentimes that the city staff plates are very full, overflowing.
Right?
So would city council come and say, great idea, but we don't have the resources to do this? So does the planning, I don't know how difficult it is to actually do the planning grant, if it's a huge process?
No, it's
if-
that's
And then
great.
if you
Sorry.
do get the planning grant, does that allow you the resources to use some of that fund for resources to bring the project forward?
No, it's-
Or is it all going to fall on Leslie's plate with everything else she has on it that this has to happen?
You don't have a lot to do you? No, great question. So what they do is they realize that staff's plate's full. we apply for a planning grant.
Who's they?
They, the DOT and FRA. So what they recommend doing, the tricky thing that has failed, where grants have failed, where applications have failed, is that staff is overloaded, they don't know how to fill these things out. What they recommend is a consultant. And it's not, you know, it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. But you get a consultant to fill out the forms, work with staff, work with city, and that's the extent of staff's participation. Once you're granted that planning grant, they then bring in resources to do almost an EIR on, okay, so let's just talk about it, like a trolley that goes, loops from the downtown by Santa Clara University, underneath the train tracks, which they are all for, down to Coleman, looping around to the airport, and coming back. They will take care of all that. They have the resources for traffic analysis, for you know, the engineering of, you know, how you would make that system work, be it autonomous, railed, pods, overhead, whatever. So they put all those resources into it. And then most importantly to this conversation, the loans, they would bring in consultants to advise the city exactly what loans they should apply for.
So is it under our purview to make that recommendation? And if it is, would we make the recommendation on what consultant could be brought to the table to do this project?
I don't have that data yet, but, and DOT and FRA cannot come forward because they're a government entity and say, you know, use Dan Ondrzak as the consultant or use, you know, XYZ company as a consultant. However, they can say these 10 consultants are, you know, are active, they're good, they're what have you. We're not recommending them, but they're available. So, you know, what we would come forward with an 030 is to say we request a planning grant be investigated. If council says yes to that, we have contacts all the way up to the senior advisor under Mayor Pete. And then the people that I work with, you know, I talk to every 3 weeks, they would then, you know, give us that data or give Leslie or staff data that they need to execute on.
So are you bringing it to the committee to say, we want to do a formal recommendation on this for this?
Well, I wasn't planning on it tonight, but
I'm just trying to.
No. I was, you know, TIFIA was brought up in this document.
Correct.
And highly recommended as what, low risk?
Can we
Yeah, there you go.
ask,
Why don't you read that?
can we ask the consultant to provide specific information to the council out of this report?
Sure. Like what you want them to focus on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that if this is a viable option, we should bring the whole package to city council. So that we go, here's what it is, this is how you do it, this is a list of consultants. So it isn't, thank you for the information, we'll try to find time to research and figure it out. The easier we can make it for them, if this is our recommendation, the better it's going to be for everybody. So
Agree with that.
that would be my recommendation.
Absolutely.
So you want to do that?
Okay, help me to form it. Come on, Chair.
Help you form what? No, I mean, you're going to help gather the information together. Because I don't think the consultants will do that. That's not in their scope. Like, we would have to provide them the list and the direction and like a flow chart of how to get there. And I mean, you've had all the conversations. I think
Sure.
we can provide some direction on items that we want to make sure that the consultant touches on in their 20 minutes. I think that's right.
So the TIFIA is definitely one of them.
Correct. And I would recommend RIF as well.
Yeah, they've got them together, yeah.
So again, just TIFI and RIF are the loans, not the grants. Right. So what you're suggesting is we as a group recommend to council,
I'm just asking if we do want to recommend, and if we decide we do want to recommend, then making sure that we go either with some sort of executive summary, some sort of short plan that says, we figured this out and this is what we're recommending the direction the city take to accomplish applying for not only the loans, but you did say there are grants available also. So we should do the work rather than putting it off on somebody else.
I have it written up. So I have my 030 written up. Sorry about your hand there. You all right, there, buddy? Okay. So I have that done.
So just clarify for me, I'm not familiar with would you say 030?
Yeah, so what you do is with an 030, you go before council and you say, we respectfully ask that this be put on a future agenda for discussion.
But
And
that won't be in the priority setting meeting. That would be in a city council.
in a
meeting.
city council meeting on the 30th. Can the public speak on this?
No, not.
No.
No, so, what, an 030?
Yeah.
No, when you go, you cannot, nobody can speak on it, not even council. They will just accept it, then the only discussion that they're allowed to have is if they want to put it on an agenda or not, and then they vote yes or no to put it on a future agenda, and then you'll be on some future agenda.
No, question to you, how long do I have to present that? That's public, that's 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, I mean, 030s, they don't have an actual time that I've noticed. You just,
Yeah, they don't, I mean,
You really-
I don't think
yeah.
you can run on and on
Right,
and
yeah.
on. Like, you got to get to the point.
like
Like,
I
I
do.
think like, you got to be, I would probably keep it to like 2 to 3 minutes.
yeah.
Well, that's all I got.
Because, I mean, that's all you really need to do. What you can do is submit information, like all your lists and your links and everything with your 030, so that way, at least when they get it in the packet, you're there.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying executive summary. So usually a 1-page, 2-page,
Well, we'll go to
everything.
public.
Pardon me?
Sorry, Mary.
You can also bring it up, we're taking this study to council as an item. You can also bring it up there as well, the notion of it. But to agendize it as a separate item for council, yes, you want to do your 030. But another touch point for you would be when we do this item.
I don't.
I think the problem is you start getting in then that would mean that we're recommending putting City Hall downtown.
No, well, no. What,
Kind of in theory, that's what it would be.
well, now I'll turn it another way if I could. Is the 030 that we're going to bring forward is, for us, is mainly Tiffy and RIF, making sure that we get those loans and property owners get those loans in that area. But also that there is that connector, and I think that's outside the scope of what we're talking about tonight. So we're going to come in with two things. We're going to come in with, we want to investigate the loan side, but we want to investigate the grant side. And the grant side is going to enable a transit entity, a last mile transit entity going from downtown under the tracks, connecting east and west, which is what they have a grant called Reconnected Communities, all across America, tracks, block, east, west, north, south, poor, rich. So they don't want to do that anymore. They want to connect those areas. So there's a specific grant for that this tunnel is perfect for. So we're coming forward with all of that in that 030. That's our wish. Now, the planning grant is going to prove that out. So all we're going to come forward with first is a request for a planning grant.
So the planning grant isn't just about building a city hall downtown?
No.
Okay. And again, the start of my question was, does this fall under our purview?
No, I think it's.
I don't think.
No, I think if you're interested, I would reach out to Dan and join the cause if you want, because it's obviously part of the greater area, but I don't think it's something that the DCTF should probably take up, but individually, absolutely.
Now, no, and I want to say this, is that after it's done, if you guys are interested in it and you want to back it, great. If you don't, you don't. But yeah, as far as, it's a side effect, so if we get TIFIA, then City Hall does play into it, they benefit from it, if it's decided.
Should we go to the public, or
That's all I got.
public? No? Is there anyone online who would like to speak? Please raise your hand and we will call on you.
I see no hands.
All right. All right, we'll move on. There's nothing that we're taking any action on, so let's move on to item number 4.
So item number 4 is discussion on future meetings of the DCTF.
All right. So this is the last item that I know besides the Nexus study, correct?
So yes, so for this group, next step on staff side is to write an RFP and for a consultant for the community benefits program, discussed and, included in the motion on council when they approve the precise plan and form-based code. That's likely going to take a number of months, so we'd sort of be in recess until that happens, and then we'd reconvene at that time. But other than that,
That's what I figured. I just wanted everybody here. Did you read what I sent it to you too, right? The Supreme Court. I just wanted to mention it about Nexus studies, didn't I? Do you know about it? Yeah, you know about it. So just for everyone's FYI, the Supreme Court's going to hear, I think they are going to hear, I don't think they heard it already, oh no, they did hear it on the 9th. They haven't written about it yet. A case that is going to have to do with setting the bar for justifying impact fees, aka Nexus studies. So it comes from a case from El Dorado, and the Supreme Court took it as a case. So we're going to wait for the judgment, but it's going to potentially have significant impacts on how an impact fee can be implemented, when it can be implemented, what study, and how high the bar has to be set. And just based on reading that little blurb, there's concern about actually raising the bar because there could be more cost and time associated with hitting those requirements, which would obviously delay and, not end up reducing the actual cost of the construction. So really interesting. I recommend anybody to check it out. I don't know, Matt, if you have any more information because you walk and live this life more in housing and stuff, but that was like the synopsis I got from it.
Yeah, you couldn't underestimate the potential impact of the decision.
Oh, I can estimate.
I don't know how to put it more. This is the way California has chosen to work. We're not unique nationwide, but we actually are unique nationwide. And so the impact locally, city, county, and the state of this decision is significant. Will definitely impact this process, but buckle up.
So that is the California Supreme Court you're talking about?
No,
No?
it's
The
the
US
Supreme Court, but California is going to be the most impacted because we have Prop 13, and so our revenue stream is stipend by that. And so since that has, limited the amount of resources coming into, government agencies to be able to maintain and do capital improvement projects, they have been utilizing impact fees to subsidize that take. And this might overturn or set the bar much higher. And so it's, like he's saying, it's going to be wild for us.
And when is that on the docket?
Schools,
Do we know?
They heard it last week,
Oh, they heard it last week. Where have I been?
When did they judge?
right? Didn't they hear it last week? I'm pretty sure they heard it last week. Check it out. I'll send you the article if I
Oh,
find it
please
again.
do.
yeah, I'll send the article to the full task
Everybody?
force right
Yeah,
now.
okay, thanks.
I just,
Cool, thank you. No, I
it was
just,
in my text.
I somehow found it and I was just blown away. Like, I mean, it's quietly going through. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, everybody's paying attention to this shiny thing over here, but this real quiet, bland thing is really the thing we all should be the most nervous about. And I think it'll bankrupt cities. If it actually is removed, it will most likely bankrupt most of California. That's what I see. What? Right? Thank you. Yeah. Or yes, or there will be some other magic, I don't know. No, we don't. All right. That was all I wanted to say. I just wanted to get that out too, because it is obviously going to potentially affect us kind of coming back. So depending on if there's just some judgment, I would assume that we might not even get to that point. And at that point, I don't know what that means, that if we try to reapply, like, we might have to come back and try to reevaluate the bonus plan
Yeah,
at that point, because we couldn't apply a nexus study.
correct.
So,
So we're going to not start the Nexus study?
No.
no,
No,
they're going to
we'll
write the
still- yeah,
RFP. That's going to
Yeah.
take time and everything. I think hopefully we would have some kind of response, since I'm pretty sure they already heard it.
Well, they have to give a ruling by the end of June, so that's
Right.
the latest.
Is latest. So then that would probably time out by the time we're ready to, execute on a contract and
Right,
selection
yeah.
process. It'd be perfect. So all the work Leslie's going to do until June is useless, but no, I'm just kidding.
We got to do what we got to do.
Well, it's a 50-50. It's a 50-50.
That's true, yeah.
Actually, 60-40.
Yeah. I just forwarded the article to the task force.
Yeah. Thank you, Leslie. It's interesting reading, though.
Yeah.
So, all right, that was all I had for that. We'll go to the public. Mary?
Chair, could I ask a
Oh, sorry.
I think the item was future meetings.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we could have a brief discussion about scope of work. We have this piece. Are there other pieces that we're expecting to come back to
No?
task force? Is there RFP on
Oh,
the land?
yes,
and
that
the-
is in your scope. The RFP on the city-owned property. That is
So-
also in your scope.
I guess we have to come back.
I just think it's worth keeping track of the pieces that, A, we're committed to, B, we also know we have value to add to. So as we, think, I apologize, I got a calendar invite with a Zoom link that goes for
Oh,
like
yeah.
another 18 months. And so I
Sorry,
did
that's
choke
my
a little
fault.
bit and then zoomed in, and I should have been here in person. I apologize for that. But I do think it's worth us keeping track of both our expectations and the city's expectations going forward.
So is there anything else, Leslie? Those are the only two
Those are
things
the-
that I
those
know,
are
the
the
two
two
RFPs.
items. Yeah,
And there's
Well-
going to be delays, gaps
Correct.
between them.
yes.
The other piece that we had talked about discussing is, does this task force have a responsibility to make sure that this precise plan form-based code doesn't go into a drawer and go away for the next 50 years? So is there a use for us to keep this moving forward, keep it in the forefront? On behalf of the university, we are very excited about the downtown, and I've been instructed by our president to make sure this thing keeps moving forward, that it doesn't go into a drawer. I don't know what that means for this committee, but it seems most logical since we've been involved with it for so long. There might be certain individuals that want to stay with this and make sure that we continue to move this project forward.
Thanks, Bush. I think the RFP for the land is probably the next big step, right? Because that's going to be the catalyst, so
Yeah.
that's good. So once that's there, hopefully, that is really the start.
Can we be involved with the RFP?
We are. We're coming back,
Formulation
we're
of
coming
the-
back for
okay,
both the
for the formulation of
RFP of the Nexus and the RFP.
Okay.
And then ultimately, I guess after the Nexus, there will be a decision at that point. So we'll have to come back, reading the Nexus, because they're going to tell us what the impact is. And then if we apply that impact, I can guarantee you it's going to be much higher than what anybody would want to pay. So we're probably going to end up discussing a reduction based on what we feel the market can actually bear and is reasonable and still fulfills kind of our vision. So it's not just the RFP. So it's the RFP, getting the Nexus, and then making an ultimate recommendation to council for them to apply and approve the amount that they will apply to unlock the bonus. Sorry, I'm like,
No, you're correct.
I'm like, just, So there is a little bit more to just coming back for the RP, and then the RP for the land, I'm assuming we'd come back for the RP, it would go out, the people would come, we would get submissions, we would look at them, evaluate them against the plan and the vision, and see what, people had good ideas and whatnot. One thing I always, always say is always when you go out to another RFP, you get more great ideas. So sometimes it's good to just keep going out, like rebidding a job. Um, But no, I mean, seriously, some people will interpret things different with the plaza and have different resources and ideas. So again, I think we would be back for that and kind of help the process, but ultimately council, again, we would produce the recommendation to council saying this is the one we feel is the best value for the city based on the vision, and then council would have to make the decision. Good luck. They're all wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I want to also say thank you to everybody. I mean, this has been 5 years, and I think what we produced for the city, not only for the downtown, but also as a platform for other precise plans and form-based codes, hopefully will add a lot of value. And thank you, Leslie. I mean, you've been here a lot. Thank you.
So have all of you.
A lot.
A lot.
So
Thank
have
you,
all of you.
Leslie.
I know, but we
Formal congratulations to all of you,
And to you.
right?
we do this for fun.
We do.
Leslie
So
does
do
this
I.
for
No,
a
I do it
job.
for
Yeah.
fun too.
We do this for fun. That's
We do this for fun.
pathetic.
Yeah.
No, I chose this as my job.
Are there any other questions before we go to the public or no, we need to go to the public, right? Or
Yes, you need to go to the public, but I think Matthew.
another question?
I just want to put one thing on the record, and it's clearly not agendized, but in terms of our schedule, the timing of the nexus, the question of the bonus, the, I think, shared desire to see things moving forward. The city does have an option of putting a sort of addendum or rider language along with entitlements, noting that there is a fee study in process under consideration and that the development could be required to pay that fee at the point of pulling building permits when most of the fees are collected, even though at entitlement that fee hasn't been set. So it's essentially a placeholder. I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anybody who's interested in developing in the downtown, but without that, and it's very difficult in the current environment to create that window open so that we don't end up with major projects that are coming ahead of that important work that we know has to happen. So it's not something I think we can decide tonight, but it just for the record to raise that as a potential recommendation that this group could make, if as we sort of revisit this with the RFP, that council could consider.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Anything else?
And also, thank you, everybody, for your service.
All right, we'll open up to public comment. Oh,
It is not started yet, no, but that is part of the next step, yes. Once you
No.
start it, yes.
Oh, the cycling for yeah.
Offering it, yeah.
Yeah, offering out. I don't think they're going to offer it though until we have an RFP.
Correct.
For the land, because if it doesn't get pulled by a government agency or an affordable housing developer, then it's going to go out to the open market and have to have the RFP. So. And actually, even then, I think we still have some control. Like, you can still land lease it out. Like, we still get to make decisions on how the surplus land is offered. So, certain decisions, not every decision, but we don't have to just declare it surplus and sell it. So, we can declare it surplus to land lease it too. So I wouldn't expect to get into that until later this year when that are like way later. Yeah. But hopefully we'll get to the point where they can declare it surplus this year. Probably not. All right, public? Welcome, Mary.
Hi. I have several questions. One of them is for Leslie, and it's about the Merchants Association. I would like to know what it would take to have a Merchants Association take over the Merchants Association that we have. And I know that the city is involved with that, with the gentleman who does.
The bid, the current
Yeah.
bid.
So I think it's important that we have that started, to start before even the RFP goes out, so that they can start marketing the downtown to not only the developers, but to the public for ideas on what they want to bring in. That's one. And then the second thing I would like to know, and I don't know whether to ask Leslie or all of you, Mr. Crabtree, the Director of Planning, has decided to resign or retire, maybe go somewhere else. And how do we, as the public, can input on getting somebody in there? We have nobody in the city that knows form-based code, precise plans. I know we've done one, okay? But we need experts in there. And the person who should have the directorship of that, of planning, should be somebody that's absolutely knows form-based code, the precise plan, and how to do grants and how to do all of this stuff that we need to have done. This would be an asset to the city now, in particularly because of the downtown, but in the future for all of the other areas that are coming up. And I would like some ideas from all of you as to how to get that done. So that's the two things that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Can I comment? Yeah. Is it, this is something that's near and dear to my heart too. So we have this opening, again, the cities that have implemented form-based code, you've had really good form-based code implementation in certain cities. And I just got a packet this week on terrible form-based code implementation. And it has to do with the director of community development or city management. So I think that point right there is huge. We've worked for 5 years, to your point, you know, does it go in a drawer? To make a recommendation to the city that they put somebody in that position who has not only form-based code knowledge, but experience in other cities implementing it. Is that something that we would be open to recommend?
When would we make that recommendation? Then?
I don't know.
I don't know when, I mean,
We're kind of,
It's-
yeah, it's kind of like, I think we have to probably go make that recommendation. I mean, I think we could write a letter,
yeah,
send it to
the
council.
city manager.
For sure, and then I think we could go do a 0-30, and I think we could go push on, you know, city manager, because unfortunately that's who hires him.
Correct.
You know, so.
And there is going to be a recruitment process. I don't know. I'm assuming it's starting soon. I don't know how long.
But I mean, I'd be down to sign a letter. I guess that's what I'll say.
So, do I draft a letter?
I mean, I think
Is there any way
you got one signature.
Is there any way that we would know who those candidates are who are applying or being considered?
I don't think so. I don't think that's typically a public process.
We've-
At least not here in
We've
Santa
asked.
Clara. It could be, yeah.
We've already asked to be more transparent because the community development director has such a big impact on the residents and the environment in which we live in, that it really needs to be something, and that the city manager has only been here for 7 months, that he reaches out and has some community input on the decision to make sure that it is going to meet the vision of Santa Clarans and the state and all the other requirements and goals.
And I think there's two, you know, that's A, but B is grants and loans, to Mary's point. you know, that they, not that they're writing the grant and the loan, again, you have an expert doing that you hire, but that they have some experience in that. And then the housing element, I think, is,
Yeah, we still haven't passed the housing.
We're coming back with a cleanup ordinance.
They entered in poor projects and planning and everything on it so that it's tied together. So, and there
Frank, you should be able to unmute and speak.
As a member of Reclaiming Our Downtown, well, if a recommendation for an implementing form-based code effective.
Thank you, Frank.
Speak.
Hi, because I feel like I'm part of you, watching you every meeting for the last 5 years. So thank you, everyone on the task force, for your service and for getting this through to this point. And I echo Frank what he said of getting that person in there that is qualified to get the grants and get the consultant to help them out in the form-based code and get everything rolling. We need that experience is ideal for you to look at, and how they did it after Mountain View. So you have 2 Bay Area cities right here that you can look at. And there were city planners who did that for them. So thank you very much. And let's get this downtown going. Like I said, I used to talk about the swim center in 2016, 2017, and it saddens me now what has happened and the closure that could have been prevented. So let's get this downtown rolling. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate your attendance and all your help. All right, any other hands? All right, close public comment. All right, and is there a motion? Oh, no, we need to go to public presentation. So is there any member from the community that would like to address the task force on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Not. Any hands in the?
I see no hands.
All right. Moving on, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting of January 18th?
so moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Meeting is